والله كان في عيون.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good morning. How's everyone? This lecture will talk about fluid and electrolyte imbalances. It's not only electrolyte imbalances because there is a great association with the fluid. Electrolytes dissolve in fluid. Electrolytes become electrolytes when they are dissolved in the fluid, particularly water. Okay, so now we'll talk about what are the electrolytes, what are the things we call electrolytes, water distribution in the body, electrolyte distribution in the body, the benefits of the electrolytes to our body, what is the sources of gain and loss, and each electrolyte will have action and function in our body. What's the treatment for the high level and low level. Okay. So electrolytes are substances when dissolved in water separate and carry an electrical current. There are two types, cations and anions. Cations is as meaning that you have extra ion. Anion means have less ion. What is the meaning of ion? Each cell, each molecule, okay, each atom of any chemical, it has nuclei and electrons around it. Okay, so the electrons they are different from each atom to other atom. So, for example, sodium different than potassium, different than hydrogen, different than oxygen. These all chemicals, right? You are familiar with these chemicals, right? They are chemicals. They have the electrons around the center of these atoms, and these electrons, maybe one electron, maybe two, maybe three, maybe 10. Okay? So one molecule will lose an electron. Instead of 10, it will have 9. Okay? When it's having the 10, it is neutralized. So it doesn't have charge. It's not positive or negative. It is neutral. Once it's dissolved in water, depending on the type of the substance, either it will lose the ion or it will get the ion. Okay? So the one will lose the ion, instead of having 10 electrons, it will lose 1 electron, it will become 9 electrons. And the one that will receive the electron, okay, instead of having 10 electrons, it will have 11 electrons. Okay? So this cations have extra electron, the anions have less electrons. Okay? So cations are in particular are substances that's losing electrons: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and ions, chloride, bicarbonate, phosphate, sulfate. Once they are dissolved in water, they will have the negative charge. Okay? So major cations in our body, in the extracellular space is a sodium. This is cation or positive charge. Intracellular space, potassium, also positive charge. Okay? Electrolyte imbalances, there is terminology for that. You just add the hypo and hyper before the Latin name for the electrolyte. For example, hyponatremia, hypokalemia, hypomagnesemia. Okay, and the symbols for these electrolytes are taken from the Latin name, not from the English name. Okay, the Latin name, for example, natremia. So Na, the sodium symbol. So you will know, write sodium with S, you will write S symbol, you put Na. Also, potassium is not P, it is K, because it's hypokalemia. So the Latin name is the one that will give us the symbol. Okay, this is good background about the chemical subject of this lecture. Now let's talk about water. Okay, water is very important because it's where the electrolyte become electrolyte. Let's say you have the table salt, it consists of sodium and chloride. They will be neutral, they are not electrolyte, they are minerals. Once they are become dissolved in water, they will separate, they will have the sodium and the chloride, and they are ionized. Okay? So, where is the water in our body? Water is consisting of 60%, is 60% of our body weight. So, let's say the patient or your weight is 80 kg, 40 kg, let's say if 70 kg, here is we calculate according to 70 or 70 kgs. 40 kgs or 40 liters will be water. Okay? And this amount of water is distributed to intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. The intracellular fluid, as we explained yesterday, the third spacing, right? You remember the third spacing?
Yes.
There is intracellular and the vascular and the space in between. Okay, interstitial, some people call it. So the intracellular, the water inside the intracellular is the 40% of body weight. Most of the water is intracellular, inside the cells, normally, okay? We are not talking about dehydration or edema or abnormal fluid spacing. Normally also, in extracellular space, you will have the other remaining 20% of body weight, and it is divided to interstitial fluid and the blood. The amount of fluid in the blood consists of 80% of extracellular fluid. The amount of fluid in interstitial space is 80% of the extracellular fluid. Okay? You're not really required to memorize all these numbers, but at least you have an idea. The most of the fluids will be intracellular space, and the blood volume is the smallest volume of all. Now let's compare that with the amount of electrolyte in each type of fluid. It turns out that all this fluid are not equal in the components and concentrations of electrolytes. They are different. Also, they are different in their functionality. Let's say the blood have different functionality than the fluid inside the cells, right? They have different functionality, they are circulating, they have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and these things is not inside the cell, right? They are only in the blood. So each fluid compartment have its function. Also, they have different concentration of electrolyte. As you can see here, for example, the sodium, and there is 3 colors. Yellow for intracellular, blue for interstitial, and red for the plasma. Let's say the sodium, it has in less than 20, this is the measurement of milliequivalent per liter, less than 20. In the intracellular space, so inside the cells, it's less than 20. And you know in the plasma, when we measure it, the normal sodium is 135 to 145. So in the plasma is high. Opposite, it's low in the intracellular and high in the blood. Also in the interstitial is higher than the intracellular. On the other hand, potassium, for example, let's go for the potassium. It's opposite of sodium. Intracellularly, it's high, 140. You never measure potassium, it reach 140, right? It will be, means the patient is diuretic, or you have wrong sample. While extracellularly, interstitial plasma, you will have less than, they will normally 3.5 to 5.5 when you measure in the plasma, the lowest, and also interstitial is around that. Okay? No way to measure the intracellular, no way to measure the interstitial fluid. It's no way, but they do it in the autopsies, in the histology. When they take tissue samples, they analyze it. But no way for us, when the patient is alive in ICU, no invasive way to measure the interstitial, intracellular. What you only can measure is the intravascular and the plasma. The only thing that you can measure. Okay? So it's very important to know that this electrolyte, this is balance. This is considered the homeostasis. This is the amount of electrolytes that's necessary for the functionality of each fluid. If I make the balance different, if I will make the potassium high inside the cell and low out in the plasma, or opposite, the patient will have all these fluids will not do its function properly. Okay? For example, if you have hypokalemia, our level is 3.5 to 5.5, it will affect the heart. Also, you will have hyperkalemia, it will affect the heart, because these normal levels, they are not supposed to be equal. They are supposed to be these levels. Okay? Any change in this level is the imbalance. Okay? The balance does not mean they will be equal. The balance means they are within normal range. So this imbalance is having another functionality. It is a potential for a gradient, right? There's a gradient between high and low. This gradient, if not present, you will not have the movement of electrolyte. Let's say if you have you are pouring water from in a jug to a cup, you need to raise your hand. It will not pour if you are in the same level. You need to raise your hand, and you need to raise the level between the intracellular and extracellular, because you need this difference. Let's say for some cellular processes, there is a channel. You open between the space between intracellular and extracellular. The sodium will flow from out to in, for example, and the potassium will flow from in to out. This motion will be reversed again, but this motion will create cellular function. Will create cellular function. So I will open it, it will create cellular function, then I have another process, an enzyme, to reverse it and return it back to normal. Okay? Also, electrolytes are affected by fluid function called molarity and osmolarity. So, what is molarity? What is molarity? Like say you measure millimole, right? When you measure electrolytes, you measure millimole. What is mole? Mole is happening when the electrolyte or any substance dissolve in water. It will be moles. Okay, let's say the molecules of sodium, it will dissolve in water, it will make 2 millimole. While the potassium, it will make 5 moles. Okay, this is a just random number to explain. This is how many moles per liter per this substance. It's different between a substance and another substance. While the osmolarity, it will measure the total moles, or the total moles in that fluid. I have sodium 2 and I have potassium 3, the total is 5. All of this will affect the osmolarity of the fluid. You get it? Now, individually, I will measure molarity. So I'll measure moles, I will not measure moles, sodium and potassium. I'll measure sodium alone and potassium alone. How many moles of the sodium inside the fluid? Let's say I will have sample 3 ml and I will put it in the machine. The machine will measure how many sodium and you write it in the report. How many potassium and you write it in the report. Okay? Both total moles is the osmolarity. Okay? And it will affect really the ability of the fluid to be attractive to fluid, attractive to water, or leaving water. What is osmolarity? Osmolality. You heard about osmolality before? You heard about osmolality before? There is a fluid have high osmolarity and the other fluid have low osmolarity, and we talk about it through third spacing. That if you have a blood have low osmolarity, the fluid will be lost to the tissue and have tissue edema. Why is that? And for example, you asked us today, we asked which type of fluid to replace in case of hypotension, and you said there's crystalloids and there's colloids. And what is the difference between them? You said colloids able to hold itself, it will not be leaked out to tissue, right?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because it's holding water. and it's maintaining the blood pressure, it's retaining the water inside the vascular space. Why is that? Because it's have a higher osmolarity.
Like TPN or PTN?
Yeah, osmolarity is a feature of any type of fluid. Any fluid will have a measurable osmolarity. Urine, blood, saline, drain, all everything have osmolarity according to the how many moles of substance inside this fluid. Okay? The higher osmolarity, I will give you some. The higher osmolarity, the more the fluid able to hold the water inside. The fluid we are talking about now is water. Okay? So each fluid have some part of water. Blood have water, plasma have water, body fluids, all body fluids will have water content. So the main purpose is to maintain the water content inside the fluid. Okay? So the higher the osmolar the fluid, the more it will maintain the water and attract more water. Okay? This is, for example, if you ate some salty food or food that is high in sugar, you tend to have the need for drinking right afterwards. Why? Because I made my saliva thick. I made my saliva having higher osmolarity. So it dries out my tongue, it dries out my oral cavity. So you feel the dry mouth and you want to drink. Okay? How it dries out? By osmolarity. So the saliva having higher osmolarity, it absorbs water from my oral cavity, so I have dryness, so I need to drink water. Okay? Your question?
So what is the difference between osmolarity and oncotic pressure?
Osmolarity and oncotic pressure? Well, oncotic pressure is like a pressure, right? Osmolarity does not exert the pressure. Osmolarity does not exert the pressure.
But both of them, they attract the fluids.
Yes, there is different methods of fluid attraction. Let's say I will tell you something. Now you have one space and another space. This is really outside this lecture, but I will just answer this question. To both spaces, they are different in pressure, not in concentration. Okay, so the pressure is different, will attract the fluid. But here I'm talking about the concentration of substitutes. Concentration of substitute is different, it will attract the fluid. Anybody missing the point here? Okay? So what are the main functions of electrolytes? Electrolytes are important in muscle control and in nerve conduction and in water movement. We just explained now how osmolarity will affect water movement. If you have low osmolarity in the blood, it will allow the fluid to leak in the cells and you have edema. So what's the role of electrolyte in nerve conduction? The name of electrolytes give you it implies that it causes electricity, right? Electrolyte, electricity, positive, negative. You have a battery, you have a positive end and negative end, right? Yeah. So you have the positive end and the negative end. This positive end and the negative end, once you put it inside your remote, it will turn on the remote, right? It will allow it to function. How? Because it goes inside the remote, it will allow current to pass through the electronics and allow the energy to be used in the remote. Okay? Now, this electrolyte is like battery inside the nerve. Batteries. Okay? These batteries, once you have stimulation, once you have the will to move, to think, you initiate one battery, open, use battery, or plug in, turn on, do the stimulation. The electricity will run through the circuit, and for example, you want to move your hand, you will move. So the nerve conduction will use the electrolyte as battery. Okay? And it will run the electricity in your system. Use this thought about all the body controls. Okay? Our body control, there is nervous system and endocrine system. Okay? Endocrine does not use directly the electrolyte. Nervous system use directly the electrolyte because the very quick reaction from the nervous system. So it needs electricity, and electricity is very fast, right? Once you turn it on, the light is here. Once you press the button, the light is on, right? Metabolism level. So a lot of enzymatic reaction and metabolism. You know what is metabolism? Is the word metabolism familiar for you? Huh? I know you have the right thought, the right perception of metabolism, but what's the role of metabolism in our body? Where is metabolism happening? Liver. Huh? Digestive system, huh? Brain and what?
Each cell.
Brain, renal, huh?
Each cell.
Each cell. Metabolism, the cell only was created by metabolism. Okay? There was a first cell ever since conception. Okay? It was even produced in our body by metabolism. Okay? The metabolism is the life, the creation of new life, the creation of new chemicals, DNA, RNA, immune cells, every single thing need metabolism. Okay? So it's really, you can write books about what's happening inside metabolism, but in general, they need electrolytes, they need phosphorus, they need potassium, they need sodium to activate the chemical process in metabolism. Okay? It does not happen without the presence of these electrolytes. Does not happen. It's like money. Okay, you can think of electrolytes in metabolism, it's like money. There is money, there is work, no money, no work. Okay?
No money, no money.
So energy production and general metabolism depends on electrolytes, DNA production, enzyme production, also bones, because what makes our bones? Electrolytes, right? So the electrolytes are deposited in our bones. Also acid-base balance. Acid-base balance, because now we will discover that in the kidney, there is the kidney perfusion, the kidney filtration, depend on electrolyte and charges, positive and negative, and concentration of electrolytes. And one of the things that the kidney control is the loss of buffer, like by carb, controlled by carb levels. So when it does control by carb levels, it will affect more bicarb, more alkalosis, less bicarb, acidosis. Okay? So, what is the most common manifestations of electrolyte imbalance from the function? So, what you can tell me, if I have now low electrolytes, what about this function? What wrong can happen? Now we discover like 7 functions. What wrong can happen? Huh? Disturbance in nervous system. Great answer.
Also dysrhythmia.
Huh?
Dysrhythmia also.
Dysrhythmia. I said dysrhythmia. Good. What else? Muscle control will be disturbed.
Yeah.
What else? Huh? Circulation. Yes, because the water will be lost and you
Weak.
have hypotension. Huh?
They will be weak.
Bone strength, osteoporosis. What
That's
else?
general weak.
Huh?
General weak. Yeah.
General weakness, muscle, all the muscle is weak. What else? Acid-base imbalances. What else? Huh? Yeah, what else? Metabolic process will stop.
Yeah.
Healing will stop. Immune response will stop. Abnormal organ functions. Okay? So the electrolytes will create electricity through chemical process called action potential. Creating of action potential. What's action potential? There is really less than potential. What's the potential? I told you about the gradient, high and low. This is potential. Potential of movement from high and low. Once I open the channel, it will move from out to in. The other one go from in to out. This movement will create electricity, and it will create action potential, and you will have the nerve impulse. Okay? The that's why they call it potential. It's not actual, it's just potential. Once you need it, it will open, you open the channels and it will move, you'll have the action potential. Okay, see? The movement of charges, it will create an impulse. But again, there is normal process allow this to reverse again, right? It change here, but again it will go back to normal. Sometimes this process is impaired, so it will stay open. They will have seizure. Continuous electric impulse does not stop. So something should start and something normal inside the cell should stop. Okay? So what makes the electrolyte goes in and out? We have organs control the electrolyte movement in our body. Let's say why the person lose electrolyte. Let's say if he lost any type of fluid. Let's say in general, any fluid loss means electrolyte loss. Okay? So vomiting and diarrhea, because GI juices include lots of electrolytes. Kidney loss. If there is kidney disease, it does not retain the proper amount of electrolyte, or if you have lots of urination, lots of sweating, all electrolytes in the fluid. If you are treating the patient with CRRT, abnormal setting, you lose electrolytes. So what makes him gain in electrolytes? All the intake. You can orally, GIT, or through IV, or through abnormal removal. So you are not removing the electrolytes, you will retain the electrolytes. Okay? So kidney disease can cause increase the electrolytes in our body, and loss also. So what's the function of the kidney to control the electrolytes? So the electrolytes being filtered in the kidney through process. First, the blood will reach the kidney, and here there is this is the functional unit of the kidney. It's called the nephron. This nephron have one part. First, we do the filtration. After filtrations, reabsorption. So it will take away all the amount of electrolytes, maybe 99%. Then reabsorb again 98%, and you are losing 1%. You think about it? You are not coming here 100%, lose 1%, and go back again. No, two steps. One step is filtration, then second step is reabsorption. Again, you get it? Okay? So this really depends on many things. First of all this tissue has to be healthy. If there is ischemia in the kidney, it does not work. Okay? If there is no good perfusion, it does not work. If the concentration of blood and electrolytes in the blood is high or low, it makes the loss high or low. You are losing more or losing less, depends how much electrolyte in the blood. It depends also on what the kind of fluid inside the nephron itself, because there's also osmolarity and exchange, fluid exchange. Okay? If there's kidney disease, if there's diabetes, if there's high sugar, if we are losing lots of water, also all of this will affect how much you are losing in electrolytes. So after all of this, after reabsorbing again, it will lose the fluid in the urine. Okay? So this is, at the end you will have the urine. So as you see here, we are losing the sodium chloride, everything here, then again reabsorb. See all these red arrows? There's capillary passing here, capillaries, reabsorbing again. Okay? So what's the main nursing intervention for fluid imbalance? Fluid imbalance. Huh?
Intake and outflow.
Assess, monitor, assess degree of fluid loss, how much loss you calculate. That's why you have the net balance. That's why you have the hourly negative balance, positive balance reporting. You have normal ranges.
Weight
Okay.
monitoring.
Weighing patient, exactly. What else? Replacement of fluid as needed. Monitoring electrolytes also with the fluids. So measure electrolytes in our body, working in our body are those: sodium, potassium, phosphorus, chloride, calcium, and magnesium. So sodium, the most abundant in our circulation. It's not most abundant in our whole body. It's second most abundant in our whole body. Okay. So most abundant in the extracellular fluid. It controls, it helps in acid-base balance and fluid movement and nerve impulse. Okay? The main functions of sodium, the normal 135 to 145. What controls sodium in our body? Yeah. Antidiuretic hormone allow the water to be lost or kept in the kidney. Sodium aldosterone. Aldosterone is one of the mineralocorticoids released by the adrenal glands to control sodium and potassium secretion. Also one thing called adrenal natriuretic peptide. It helps, it's secreted by the heart tissue. Okay, it helps in the secretion of the sodium. So what causes hyponatremia? You can see some pattern here, the things I explained before, the causes of loss, the causes of gain, you can see it also here. Like water retention, because sodium goes with the water, and water goes with the sodium. Okay, they are like this, okay, married. So water retention means you're not losing water, you're not losing sodium. Inadequate sodium intake, high sodium, sodium, inadequate sodium intake, we're talking, this is hyponatremia. Also water retention helps in, causes hyponatremia also. It causes hypernatremia and hyponatremia. It causes hypernatremia if the kidney is not working, you're not losing the water and the sodium. It causes hyponatremia if you are losing sodium but not losing water in abnormal kidney disease. So you are losing the sodium but not losing the water. So now you are diluting the sodium. The relationship between sodium and water, now you have equal, let's say, suppose this is the normal levels, now you have more water and less sodium. So it's dilutional hyponatremia. Like you have blood sample and you put saline on it or put water on it. When you measure the sodium in this sample, it will be low. Okay? So I have more water in my circulation, I will have hyponatremia. Okay? Same works also, yeah? Syndrome of anabolic hormone. Okay? Inadequate sodium intake, if you are not taking enough sodium, sodium-rich fluid, vomiting, diarrhea. Patient who are in defied water for a long time, okay, a large amount, dilute the blood. Syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormones. Okay, manifestation of hyponatremia. So you can guess, it will affect the nervous system, the activity of the patient. So you will have symptoms of lethargy, headache, personality changes, you may have seizures. And if the sodium is less than 115, you will start to have brain damage. Permanent brain damage. Okay? Symptoms of hyponatremia, it can be due to dilutional hyponatremia. You will have more water in the system, and this water will leak out to tissue. You may have tissue edema, and also if the water stays in the circulation, you have hypertension. And with hypertension, fluid overload, when you feel the pulse, it's bounding. Okay, and the patient will have weight gain. Nursing intervention. First of all, treat the cause. Treat the cause. If he is not taking sodium, give sodium. If he is not urinating, if he is like not losing the water properly, he's taking more water, reduce the water intake. He's having hyponatremia now, so he is drinking fluid with low sodium. So you will have diluting. He is diluting his blood. Give him sodium in the food, and we may give hypertonic saline if nothing else works. Hypertonic saline is not the first solution. If all other methods does not work, you try hypertonic saline, because hypertonic saline is hypertonic. When you put it in IV, for example, it's irritating to the peripheral veins. It's having the risk, if you run it too fast, you will have neurologic damage. If you are replacing the sodium too fast, you have neurologic damage. Be careful when you replace sodium, not to replace sodium faster than 1 millimole per hour. Let's say you are now, the patient is 125 sodium, it's low, 130, let's say 130. You want to replace, you will give hypertonic saline. The patient have neurologic symptoms, the patient have lethargy, doctor asks, give hypertonic saline. If you run the hypertonic saline fast, and within 2 hours you move from 130 to 140, you will have neurologic damages. Okay? So it has to be from within 2 hours, 2 millimole. 130, now it's 132. After 5 hours, so to reach 140 you need 10 hours, not 2 hours. Okay? Hypernatremia, a deficit water relative to sodium, maybe the patient losing more water and retaining more sodium. Maybe the patient sweating too much, having diabetes insipidus, or sodium retention in Cushing syndrome. So manifestation, you can remember it by remembering the word salt. So seizures, A, altered mental status, L, low-grade fever, T, thirst. He is feeling thirsty. Or salty, thirsty. Other symptoms, edema, hypertension, and weight gain. What's the interesting intervention? For hypernatremia, replace fluid slowly over 48 hours. And sodium, when you also decrease the sodium, when you treat the sodium also, you move it up and down, same. If you want to treat the sodium, you don't want it to go down too fast, even with the normal range. If, let's say, the sodium is 150, 155, you don't want it to be within 2 hours, 145, slowly. Close monitoring of vital signs and fluid and balance and conscious level. Potassium is very important in intercellular action, since that's why potassium is very high inside the cell and sodium is very high outside the cell. Sodium to maintain the water outside the cell and potassium to maintain cellular function. Normal inside the plasma 3.5 to 5.5. It helps also in acid-base balance and conversion of carbohydrates to energy inside the cells and neuromuscular impulse. So all the muscles inside the body need potassium to function, including heart muscle. So food sources, as we saw, banana, meat, potatoes. If the patient is not eating properly, he will have hypokalemia. Also, if the patient is in anabolic state, normally the potassium is high inside the cell. If there is any disease that does not maintain the balance, the potassium will move from inside the cell to the plasma. The patient will have hyperkalemia. It's not like you give him potassium. No, he already have potassium, but it moved from intracellular space to extracellular space. Okay? Catabolic states, during injury, it moved from inside injured tissue, it will move to the blood, or the kidney failure. Causes of hypokalemia, loss of fluid, diarrhea, decreased intake, giving insulin. All of you know what's the role of insulin in hypokalemia? It shifts potassium from intravascular to intracellular. Also hypomagnesemia. Okay? Potassium and magnesium, they are going up and down together. Okay? Sometimes it's wise to give magnesium with the potassium if the patient having some cardiac arrhythmias, etc. Manifestation of hypokalemia, you have everything down. All the muscles, you see the patient down. Muscle weakness, cramps because the bowel is slowing down now. So the movement is of air, movement of bowel content is slow. So it makes gases, it makes cramps, makes pain also. Nausea, vomiting, and paresthesis, and ECG changes. What's the ECG changes? Yeah, you have the T-wave depression. Yeah, T-wave depression or inversion. Okay, and initiation of U wave. U wave is a new wave. A new wave that's coming after the T wave. Okay, does not show normally.